Welcome to Vulnerability, Introspection and Growth, the podcast where we explore the beautiful, messy and transformative magic that happens when we dare to go within. I'm your host, Robin Harris, and in each episode we'll dive into real, honest stories from people who've faced their fears, embraced their vulnerabilities and discovered unexpected growth in their personal lives, careers, or businesses. This is a space for deep listening, open hearts, and soul-nourishing conversations. Because when we meet ourselves in our rawest moments, that's often where our greatest wisdom starts. Let's begin. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Vulnerability, Introspection and Growth. And today I have with me the wonderful Alison Marsden. And Alison and I know each other through networking. So welcome, Alison. It's wonderful to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Robin. It's so great to see you. I love what you're doing, your book, and I'm really excited about talking to you in this podcast.
Yes, and from what I know of you and your work and all that you share, this is going to be an amazing conversation. I will start, as usual, with an introduction, just to let you know a little bit about Alison. She lives in the Lake District in England with her two sons and has a passion for nature. She loves gardening, hill walking, wild swimming, and simple paleo-friendly vegan food. You can already see probably why Alison and I are so much on the same wavelength. She started her career as a health practitioner 25 years ago, helping people with long-term back pain with the Alexander technique. Alison had her first book published last year, The Jigsaw Method, which she wrote to help people with digestive conditions. And the book is about lifestyle as well as diet and combines the Alexander technique with yoga and intuitive eating. She also offers retreats here in Wales, also in the Lake District and online, to guide people through this process and experience the joy of a vibrant, pain-free body and mind. What a fantastic bio, Alison. Fantastic, as I was saying, to have you here. And I always start with 3 questions for my guests. So first of all, what makes your story relatable to others?
I think it's because I've been in some very rock bottom places, and to be able to sort of come out of those using these tools has been amazing. I call them, they're my rocks in my life, that I revert back to them and manage to climb out of a deep ditch that life threw at me for whatever reason. Yeah, so that's the thing. And that's why when I talk to my clients, I can resonate with them, because I know I've been there, and it needs this, what I call, you need to spiral out of it. It's not like straight up. So and so when people, they have this feeling that they're not progressing, I say it's okay, you're just on that spiral, and eventually you'll feel, oh, I've moved up a bit now. Yeah.
So true, isn't it? We might not see it at the time that we are actually moving forward, because we feel like, oh, I've come back around. I'm just circling. Actually, like you say, it's a spiral and it's moving onward. And maybe we need that. We need to see things from all those different angles to take it on board, all of the learnings that challenges always have to share with us.
Yeah, definitely. Seeing it from a different perspective is the key thing. That's another thing I say. Time is a great healer because it distances you from it.
Helps you to have that perspective, that distance, like you say, yes, absolutely, distance, to look at it and know I'm not in the drama, I'm just able to watch it.
Yeah, exactly. You stepped out for a moment. Yeah.
Indeed. And who do you feel will gain the most from listening into this conversation?
I think those who are struggling with changing their diets, those who've got long-term pain that are struggling with that, and also the stories of my pregnancy. So if you're pregnant, second pregnancy, then this is going to be a useful podcast for you. And then if you're a single parent, yeah, struggling and looking for things that help you uh, have hope. That's the word. That things will change. Yeah.
That's fantastic. Really good helping us to tune in there and to know, give a little snippet of what's coming. And what do you hope people will take away from listening into this conversation?
I think the biggest thing is that you're taking away your own body's intelligence, being able to connect to that. That's the key thing. We're bombarded with all this information outside of us, and we need tools to actually connect to our own body's intelligence, our own body's wisdom. And it's amazing how much it has. And we all know it can do some healing. How it does that is a mystery. Um, we just need to give it the opportunity, the right environment, and it can do amazing healing.
That's so true. I've seen that so many times, and we don't really need to know, do we? Just to know that it works, that our body knows, our body holds that wisdom, and we don't need to be able to rationalize it or to make sense of it in our heads, just to trust it, to get back that trust. Because I think our conditioning and the society in which most of us live just teaches us not to trust our body, teaches us to place all of our reliance on the rational and the thinking and the
Yeah,
logical brain rather than trusting the stuff that's beneath the surface, the intuition, the wisdom. And we have those three brains. We have the head brain, fair enough, but we also have the heart brain and the gut brain. And they're designed to work together. And I love that your book really looks at the gut brain and really
the gut
supports the
brain.
gut brain. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
fantastic.
definitely. The whole book is gearing you to understand and be able to practice a repeatable process to reconnect to your gut brain. Yeah.
And that's so important, is it? That it is something we can do again and again and revisit rather than and it's not a once and done, is it?
Yeah. I
This
mean
this
that
is this is a practice for life.
yeah. That's what I say to people that you you don't get healthy by doing something for 3 months and then stop doing it because you're healthy. You need to understand that these practices, and I make the analogy to cutting the lawn. If you bought a lawnmower and you cut the lawn and thought that was it, but the grass grew again, you don't say, well, the lawnmower didn't work. You need to repeat the process. And that's what I say to clients. You need that repetition if you want to have long lasting health, just like you brush your teeth. Yeah.
I love that analogy. I think I might have to borrow that analogy. That's fantastic because it is so perfect, isn't it? You do have to keep cutting your grass if you want your lawn to stay like a lawn.
Yeah.
And if you want your body to stay healthy, it's about building a
Repeat.
practice. And they call it practice for a reason.
Yeah. Yeah. And the key thing is finding ways that you enjoy it.
Yes.
Yeah. So when I come to my yoga practice, I might say, oh well, I don't really feel like it today. I haven't got time. Your monkey brain will think of loads of excuses, and you say, well, I'll just do the first 10 minutes, and that's it. You break it down into a smaller chunk. And then after those 10 minutes, do you know what? I feel really good now. I'm going to do a little bit more. And that's how you build it up. So you need to go to do your whatever it is you decide that you want to start with, and then repeat it, whatever happens. So I was really ill when I was a child. And when I left university, I had a skin condition. I was unemployed. I had to go back to living with my mum, who's a control freak. I didn't really want to do that. And um, my brother told me, you need to go on to a yoga retreat. So I did my first meditation retreat, it was. And came across yoga on that and came away, felt totally different. And even though my mum was doing the cooking, the washing out, the shopping, the cleaning, I thought, well, I haven't got time to do the full yoga thing, but I'll just do a 10-minute thing. But I did it every day, you see. Oh, God knows how I thought I didn't have enough time. And that 10 minutes is the seed of a giant oak tree. Yeah, because I repeated that and I loved it. And I used it to navigate through my stress at work and moving house and all the rest of it in my life. But it just got bigger and bigger. Eventually, my practice now is on a good day, 40 minutes. So I do a practice 40 minutes. But the listeners, wherever you are, you just got to start something small. So.
I think that's such a good example of, well, I didn't have time. Because we do that, don't we? I'm busy. I've got this to do, and I've got this to do, and I've got this to do. And some of those may be very valid, but also we're so good at thinking, oh, I'll deal with my well-being later.
Exactly. Yeah.
Versus, as I've heard other people say, that's just kicking your problems down the road. And if you don't make time for your well-being, you end up making time for your illness. But if
Yeah.
we see that well-being is actually a part of everything, and if we don't have our well-being, we can't sustain anything else. We can't sustain our job, perhaps, or our business if we run our own business, or going out socializing, looking after our relationships. All of those things will suffer if our well-being isn't right up there,
Exactly.
one of our top priorities.
And remember, you're setting an example for all the people that you live with. You're demonstrating, setting an example that, if I look after my needs, maybe for 10 minutes, make that a priority, it feeds all your relationships. Yeah.
And
So
particularly
that's,
when you're a parent or you run your own business, that's the culture in which your family or your work colleagues are living.
yeah, that's it. Yeah, a culture, that's a really good word to use, culture. And I did a presentation at an event last week where we're trying to get wellness in the workplace and developing a culture at work where looking at our health is really important. I've got a niece, she's a nurse, and she says she doesn't have time to drink water at work. I mean, that's a full on stressful situation. And now loads of nurses are off sick. That we need to develop a culture. And so the culture could be within your home. Yeah.
And I get that about nurses because I volunteer for an organisation called FAST, Frontline Assistance for Stress and Trauma, set up during the COVID pandemic, precisely because
Mm.
nurses, we started with nurses, but we expanded out from there, that they are in that situation where they don't have time. They are on the go. And in fact, sometimes they don't even have time to take loo breaks. It really is that bad. And if you don't have time to take a loo break, you don't drink. But it's a problem that escalates and expands from there.
You
And
see,
unfortunately, that's the culture within.
yeah, that's the culture that they've created. And that's a scenario, when you're on the airplane, they say put your mask on first and
Mm.
then help your child. So they've lost that basic fundamental rule. If you can't go to the toilet, you can't drink, and that's your day all day. Eventually, that stress will catch up with you, and you've got maybe a long-term illness. So it's working with the culture so that it's much more acceptable, and you don't feel guilty or letting other people down if you just take a few moments to have a drink and go to the toilet. Yeah.
Unfortunately, obviously, thinking of things like the NHS, big institutions, then that can be challenging to change that size of a
Yeah.
culture. But even within your own team or your own unit or whatever that might be, just simple changes. Because when you notice, like you said with the yoga, if you just do that practice, you notice how much better you feel and how much more. It's like they say, if you're busy, take a break because that will actually help you be more productive.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
It's
I say,
counterintuitive, but it's important.
and because we're working with changing a culture, it's like we're having to change the direction of the tide. So to start off with, you're going to have someone who's going against the tide, even though the tide doesn't look as if it's changed. And that's why I say to my clients, be the leader rather than the awkward one. In your head, if you're thinking, oh no, you're the leader, you're helping other people follow you rather than thinking that you're the awkward one, you're dragging everyone else down. That's more of a mentality that I help my clients adopt. Yeah.
I love that because it really is all about our perception, as we were talking about, I think, before we came on live. But that idea of how you look at something is going to shape how you interact with it and how you approach it. And if you know, it's like Simon Sinek says, know your why. If you know why you want to do this, if you know why you want to drink water on a regular basis, why you want to have a yoga practice, why you want to have a breathwork practice, because you're going to feel better. And if you feel better and you're leading your team to do this, then they feel better. It's a win-win-win.
It's definitely a win-win-win. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think of the situation this is when I was working in IT. So I had a bad back in my early 20s, and this is how I stumbled across the Alexander technique and eventually cured my repeated back pain problem. But then I thought this is really useful to help me with my relationships at work and helping me communicate clearer, be much more grounded and calm when stressful situations happen. So worked in a IT help desk support environment. So sometimes the whole internet would go down and we think, right now, what do we do? We've got to keep calm and clear communications. And doing that is really important. Um, and understanding all those skills and think, right, now's the time that I invoke these skills, yeah, in those stressful situations. So you learn how to respond rather than react all the time. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm just remembering that at the top of our conversation, we were saying that this is going to be specifically for those who are pregnant, maybe in their second pregnancy, maybe single parents. And we haven't really delved into that yet.
No, we haven't.
So, so would you share a little bit about your own experience along those lines and how that impacted on you, how you navigated through that, and what you learnt from it?
Yeah, so I've had three pregnancies, but had a miscarriage. And it was the miscarriage between my two sons that was a real pivotal point in my path, my soul path. Because I'm a reflexologist as well, so I'm really interested in feet and hands. And I've just gone to Manchester for a course, and we learn all about the chi energy of blood and how you work with that with reflexology. I thought it was an amazing course. Came back to Kendal, and I was 3 months pregnant then. And I remember walking along the river in Kendal, and I walked past this cafe that I've walked past many, many times. And I smelt the coffee, and I thought, I really fancy a coffee. My whole body was drawn to this coffee, and I was thinking, but I don't drink coffee. It doesn't do my digestion any good. Why do I want some coffee? So I thought, I'm pregnant, I'm going to go for it. So I had a decaf and drank it. I felt great. I thought that's brilliant. But then as I started to walk home, I started to have a miscarriage. And by the time I got home, I was really desperate to get into the bathroom. I thought, this is a serious miscarriage. I thought, it's okay, my body knows what to do. Forgot it, just accepted it. And then I didn't stop bleeding. So after 3 days of bleed, I couldn't get up in the morning. My husband at the time was really worried about me and he kept on threatening to phone an ambulance. And I said, no, I'm okay, doing my hero stuff. Anyway, the next minute I found that there was an ambulance at the front door. They looked at me. They said, you need to go to hospital straight away. Your blood pressure is incredibly low. And when I got there, they gave me 8 pints of saline, 4 pints of blood. So it's 12 pints. And a woman of my size is normally 15 pints. And I was pregnant. So I was virtually running out of blood. Anyway, to cut a long story short, when I had finished the blood transfusion and then came back home, my husband was really keen to feed me up. And he said, so what do you feel like eating? And I thought, oh, let's listen to my body. And I said, do you know what? I feel like moussaka, but I don't want the pasta and I don't want the cheese because I was gluten and dairy free. And he said, so you just want some fried vegetables with courgettes, carrots, onions, tomatoes, and aubergines? I said, yeah, aubergines. And I thought, I wonder what aubergines. So I looked up the properties of aubergines in my book. And this is a Chinese book all about properties of food. And they said aubergines are the only vegetable that cleanses the uterus. And I couldn't believe it. I thought, oh my God, my body knows so much. And I thought, well, I wonder what coffee is. So I flipped over to coffee and it said coffee is contraindicated during pregnancy because it could cause miscarriage. And I thought, I'm not sure about that. But then when I went to the hospital and they examined the tissue, they said that the tissue had been dead inside me 2 weeks before I miscarried. So I know the coffee didn't cause a miscarriage.
But it supported your body to do what it needed to do.
Exactly. That's why I had this craving. I thought, oh my God, I need a coffee. And I was doing all this Qigong movement to flick things out of my aura. And I was thinking, my body just wanted something to really kick it out. So I thought, this is incredible. I've really got to follow this intuition. And that was a pivotal point. I thought, I need to find out more about this. And as my children got older, we were playing in the garden. We really got into gardening, and I learned about biodynamic gardening. So that's gardening to maximize the crops with the phases of the moon. And I was just intrigued. I thought, well, we're growing this stuff biodynamically. Why don't we eat it? What can we do when we actually eat it? So I started researching that and did my own experiments. And as you know, listening to your body's intuition, I discovered this is opened up a massive doorway to this amazing information about how we can follow the rhythms of our organs with a 24-hour cycle, and then the monthly cycle, and then the annual cycle. And so I started riding these waves and found my health took off. I thought, this is amazing. So that's how the book started. Because my work at that time, I was helping people with back pain because I left IT and retrained as an Alexander teacher. Started helping people with back problems instead of computer problems. And as I took their details, they would say they've also got abdominal pain, excessive bloating, skin condition, menopausal symptoms. And my own experience thought, well, if you just time your food, these health conditions can go away. So I started working with clients with diets. I then did cookery demonstrations, I did talks. And as I did this, I started writing it out on handouts. And the number of handouts got bigger and bigger, and the courses got longer and longer, until eventually someone said, why don't you compile all these into a book? And I thought, okay, then I just did a spiral bound thing. And they said, you really need to write a proper book. And that's how it started. So it was my clients that asked for it. So,
Fantastic.
yeah.
Just quickly, in regards to the book, I know that you're dyslexic, and having written my own book without having dyslexia, I'm really impressed that you decided this was the thing to do, to write everything and to put it together, and B, how on earth did you keep going? Because I really struggled. There were points in my process of writing my book that I thought, I can't do this. It's only thanks to my editor, who gently coaxed me back and got me through. How did you manage to navigate that particular challenge? And what would you maybe say to other people who are in a similar position?
Well, I'm the same as you. I gave up quite a few times. I thought, I'm not doing this. I'm not meant to write this book. I'm not. No. But one of the main things that really helped me was my dad had bowel cancer, and he had an operation, had part of his colon removed, and a stone was put in. And then 7 years down the line, he started developing dementia. And in those days, we would phone up the doctor and he came round to the house. Oh my God. And I remember we were all sitting around in the lounge and he was assessing my dad. And my dad would have these blackouts and be totally fine. He was a very intelligent person. And then all of a sudden he'd say something, you think, you've got no idea where you are. And so he was assessing him and he looked fine. And the doctor said, oh, I can come back in a couple of weeks. And then all of a sudden my dad flipped. And I said, there it is. Can you see what you just said? And the doctor said, yeah, you're right. I'll put him in hospital for a 2-week assessment. And we were all relieved because it was putting masses of pressure on my mum, because she would go out with him in the car and he'd forget that he'd gone with her and he would drive home. And then we were worried about him driving. And then, there were lots of things that took the family on their edge. So, but as he was writing down his notes, he turned to me and said, this is why we can't just cut things out of people, because it creates a bigger problem further down the line. And at that time, I was working in IT, I wasn't doing anything. And I looked at him, it's one of those things that someone says to you that you will never forget in your life. And I thought, oh, that's weird. And so as I was writing the book, because as I discovered about this biodynamic gardening, I discovered that your gut lining is the soil of your body. And this is why they say gut health is priority, because if you're going to grow some really good crops, you've got to have a good soil, you've got to have good compost. And so your gut health, and because my dad had bowel cancer, I was really keen to look after my gut. And now, because of what the doctor said, I thought there's so many people that have health conditions who decide then to have surgery, who then have a bigger problem further down. And I've got this passionate mission in my life to help people get to the root cause of their illness and work with their diet. However, as you know, it's really hard to change your diet. And this is where we overlap, because I realized that people, and this is why I call it the jigsaw method, they're in an environment which is bombarded with stimulus to eat food that's not healthy. And it's very addictive. And so I thought I need to find a process to help people connect to their bodies intelligence, just like that one when I had with the miscarriage, craving for coffee and then aubergines. So I want people to connect to that inner wisdom. So when they're presented with an ultra processed food like chocolate cookies, there is zero denial when they say, no, I'm all right, thanks. I don't want it. And that's what the process teaches you. You just want to eat healthily. But it's not like, oh, you go on an extreme diet. We do it, going back to our 10-minute practice. You do something small and repeat it. And you build on that. That's the process. So I feel like this is an amazing process for people. You know, there's this injections to help people lose weight. I'm thinking, yeah, but you've still got to come off the injections. They lose weight, and all the habits are still there.
And if you're not eating any more healthily, the underlying stuff that you're talking about now, your gut health, isn't changing, isn't improving. In fact, we don't know the long-term impact of taking the injections. What's that doing?
And the side effects are muscle weakness, tiredness, so they're less likely to do exercise. So this, you see, so this is the thing that kept me going with this book. I'm thinking, now I really want to help people. And I wrote it for my dad as well, because he was on my shoulder saying, come on, Alison, you can do this. So it's my clients and that whole story with my dad that kept me going. And then the dyslexic, I remember sending it to my sister the first time. I thought, see all my, and she pointed them out, and I laughed at some of them because I put bowels, as in your gut bowels, and it would be bowls. So I would just laugh and think, oh my, I never saw that. I just never saw it. And so that was the first iteration now. So it's been through loads of iterations. Then when finally I found the publishers, they said you need to reorganize the whole format of the book, because I'd written it for my clients as handouts, and he said, no, you need to rewrite it for someone who's just reading it for the first time. So that was a real me giving up moment. Think, oh, I'm not doing that. You're effectively asking me to rewrite the whole book. Oh, forget it.
Yes, my editor did something similar. But that's such a fantastic story that's so relatable and makes your book just sound absolutely fascinating. So we are pretty much out of time. We need to wrap up. Go so quickly. And there's so much more I'm sure we could talk about. Maybe you'll have to come back and tell us some other stories another time and more about what you do. But lastly, I just want to ask you to show your book again and to let people know where they can connect with you. And if you keep that there while you tell people how to find you, because I think I've got it on speaker record. So if I stop speaking and you take the book down, people won't have seen it. So over to you.
Okay. So my book's available on my website, integratinghealth.com. It's also available on Amazon. And if you notify me that you bought it, you can come to a free online monthly meeting. So you get comradeship, and I give you the latest recipes, and you can ask questions. There is an online stillness class to help you build this reconnection to your body's wisdom. And I've got lots of resources on my stores page. I've just done my first online winter home retreat. So I'm going to put the recordings of that on this week on my website, so that you get kind of yoga retreat experience at your own home. And that's one thing that I think people really need to cultivate, make their home a safe place where they can really reconnect with themselves. We've got too distracted with all this digital equipment, and we have too much time wasting. So I think that's it. Is that it?
It's fantastic. Thank you. And I so I'm so online with what you're saying, on board with that thing about making your home safe. And we might think, oh, my home is perfectly safe. But does it feel physically, emotionally, and psychologically safe? And
Yeah.
that's where sometimes, like, for example, you're saying about the digital noise, the fact that our mobile phones are there 24/7, 365, notifications pinging away. And if you hear a notification and you feel something in your body tighten, brace. Oh no, there's something else demanding my attention. There's another message that I need to reply to, or something else I need to look at, or maybe you know who that message is coming from and you don't want to look at it just now. All of those things also impact on our sense of safety. So, absolutely, Alison, I love the idea that we create that safe space, even if it's only in part of the house. Because for so many of us, if we're working from home, it's not possible to remove our tech from our home. But even to have a safe space that is just peaceful, quiet, you can go when you need that moment of stillness to reconnect and tune in. So thank you, Alison. This has been amazing. I have loved everything you shared, and it's been so valuable. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. And I look forward to seeing you in person in Wales.
Fantastic. I can't wait. So thank you very much for tuning in and watching this episode. If you've enjoyed it, then hit that subscribe, go follow Alison, and I hope to see you back next time for another amazing guest. Bye for now. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Vulnerability, Introspection and Growth. I hope it's given you a moment to breathe, reflect, and perhaps even see your own story with a little more compassion. If you find this conversation meaningful, I'd love it if you'd share, subscribe, or leave a review. It helps others find their way here too. Until next time, take gentle care, and remember, the journey inwards is where the real growth begins.